built them. This first one is my original toon. This is Jendar Gojira, my Argonian Templar. He's my main healer. My original toon was a Khajiit Templar who was really a DPS, but I wanted to do dungeons, and everyone was always asking for a healer. So as a result, I made Jendar. And I didn't know at the time. I just always played Argonians every Elder Scrolls game, but it turned out that Argonians were actually very good for healing. They came with a lot of passives, and he's come a long way. He's done almost all the vet content. I'm very proud of him, and he's gonna do a lot more come Somerset. Now, speaking of dungeons, after a while, healers were everywhere, and then everybody needed tanks, and that's when I made Orin. Orin is my little Bosmer tank. When I originally created him, my idea was to make the world's smallest tank. He is a Bosmer at the smallest height setting, but he is also really tough. He's done vet AA, he's done a bunch of vet dungeons, he's done vet scale caller. My idea was I just wanted to show that, you know, even though you're tiny, doesn't mean you can't, you know, be tough. He's got a really aggressive personality. I used him for roleplay. He's very blunt. He's got a very snarky sense of humor. But he also has quite a short fuse. He does not like being called short, even though he's at the small height setting. And this is OC. I remember Leprechaun to be funny, but that's not how he is in the game when I roleplay him. But that's Orin. He's my Dragon Knight. Basically, when I build him, he has a lot of health, and he gets a lot of regen from, you know, attacks and equilibrium, so he can usually handle himself pretty well in all dungeons. Dresden, now this is my first AD character. I did this because I wanted to see what the AD questline was all about. He is my Magsork. He was, until recently, one of my best DPS. He did Vet Valkyrie, Vet Bloodroot, but he was also used for roleplay when me and Serena would play together. He was originally a Breton, but I turned him into an Altmer when I wanted to use him for more DPS. But I based his personality after Captain Jack from Doctor Who. He's a huge flirt. He doesn't matter what gender you are. He will flirt with you if you're cute. But he has a lot. He does a fair bit of damage, but I've really worked with some other toons who were doing just as well. But I'm thinking about bringing him back into roleplay. That's why I took away his vampirism. I wasn't really using it, and you know, having the vampirism really limited me as far as roleplay goes. So I'm looking forward to changing that about him. Knack Knack. Okay, people who have roleplayed with me are very familiar with this toon. Knack Knack was actually made as a joke. Me and Serena were making derpy toons. She made Moon Moon the cat, so I made Knack Knack the Argonian. And Knack Knack was originally a throwaway character because I used to love like running around just doing Elder Scroll puns to random strangers. But after a while, I actually kind of fell in love with him, and I chose originally when I was designing his outfit, I chose the Khajiit helm because I thought it made him look like a superhero. But as I went further along, I kind of saw him as a jester, and when he joined the Telephonic Contracts, he was an enchanter. He really knew a lot about enchanting, but he was also a comedian. He did a lot of stand-up comedy. In fact, he won the New Year's Live Festival talent show with his comedy stand-up act. But unfortunately, Knack Knack really has not been roleplayed in about 2 or 3 years. There really hasn't been a time or place for him, but he still lives on. I still do jokes, but he's not also my best DPS. He's just like a standby healer DPS for events and stuff like that, so yeah. He's around, I just don't use him that often. Sharpest Thorns. She was created actually as a toon to be a girlfriend for my original character Jendar, because I kept on losing girlfriends. So I thought if I made a girlfriend for him, he would not keep losing them. But of course, that was not the case. She left him for an Altmer. But Sharp is my Magblade. I take her to PvP. She does fairly well. I can basically sneak in and take out entire, like, you know, their camps. I bring a user for PvP every now and then, and she does fairly well. She's cute, she's sweet, and she's fun to play. And I have her assassin camel right here. But, yep, that's Sharps. Model. I love Model. Model was designed a year, about 2.5 years ago, when Serena and I were role-playing, and this was actually the Khajiit slave that grew up under her Altmer's family. But when he went to the Elder Ebonheart Pact, Model went looking after his father, and Model went looking after him. And once, you know, Model and the Altmer were reunited, the Altmer just let him go. So Model started making a life for himself as a free Khajiit, which was hard for him. He didn't know really what was supposed to be expected of him. He spent his entire life as a slave, just like serving Altmer. But as you can see, he's made a life for himself. He's getting better. And I was originally going to delete him, but if you look at this Khajiit, if you look at his eyes, I could not do it. He has the saddest, most beautiful eyes. And he's fun. He's actually my Stampler Dragon Knight now, so he can actually do a fair bit of damage. I've been experimenting with his build, doing a couple things, and he's actually getting up there. I can get up to, like, you know, close to 20 DPS, and I'm 20k DPS, and I'm getting better. And you see he's rocking the Mechanical Acuity set. He's my Puss in Boots. So that's Model. Okay, this is probably the tune that everyone in the roleplay community recognizes, Vitalis and Thyron. When Serena and I joined the Ebonheart Pact community, we decided to make Halalu together, and Vitalis was one of them, and her cousin Valmy was the other. Vitalis, I've put a lot of focus more, for the first like, you know, 2 years of his creation, I just, like, focused on role-playing. I didn't do anything else with him. I actually had no intention of doing anything with him. I would put him in heavy armor, I had him in bows, I had him with maces. But in the last year, like, you know, 6 months especially, I've been working on his build, and it got to the point where he's actually broken 23k DPS. I've put a lot of thought and a lot of detail and a lot of work into his build, and he's actually one of my best DPS now. So not only is he one of my main role-playing characters, but he's also now one of my best DPS, and he is my Stamina Nightblade. You wouldn't think by looking at these fancy robes that he was actually so deadly, but he is. He's also running the Mechanical Acuity set. You can see the axe and the sword. And on the back bow, he has the Master Staff. In the back, there's Jasmine the Tiger. Another familiar face. People from the Ashlander War probably remember the evil Zahulu twins. This is Hazaron. When Serena and I, when the war came about, Serena was the first one to make an Ashlander, and she made Acheron. And I was getting a little bored playing a Halalu, because Vitalis really wasn't, you know, much into hating Ashlanders. So I decided, since Serena and I were such good friends, to make, with her permission, to make identical twins. And that's how Hazaron came about. Hazaron name actually came from me, like, switching around Acheron's name. Just renamed the letters. But Acheron is a Stamsork, whereas Hazaron is a Magsork. So they're identical in every way except for the way they fight. So it's actually a lot of fun when we battle together, because there's two identical twins and they have two completely different fighting styles. I haven't played Hazaron as much as I used to. Actually, the roleplay has kind of died out a little bit, but he was one of my villains, and I really enjoyed playing him. He's also my Magsork. For a while he was one of my best, but I've advanced a lot more since then, so now he's a good DPS, but, you know, it's not as good as I can be. Darhoko! Okay, I made Darhoko because I wanted to experiment with the different alliances, so he was my first DC tune. Serena made a Khajiit DC tune also, Sugar Claws, and I made Darhoko. Now, you can't tell right now, but he was actually at Calico, but when I made him, my idea was I wanted to make a really, really fat Nightblade. In fact, Darhoko translates to Heavy Thief. But, that was for roleplay. When I'm playing him, I thought it'd be funny to make him a really overweight, lazy Dromothra. And he's fun to look at. I mean, when you fight with him, it's hilarious to see this overweight drunk Khajiit just like flying through the air, like rolling around at the speed of light because he's a fucking Nightblade. But he's actually a healer. He has some DPS on him, but he's mostly a healer. But I like Darhoko. He's a lot of fun. He's adorable. Kadrin. Alright, people who roleplay will be familiar with this name. This is actually Vitalis' son. I decided at one point just to see what would happen, so I don't know why he's growling. Kadrin is a Dragonite, and the reason for that was he inherited his mother's magic, but most of his father's looks. So, Kadrin is a Magnite. He's a magic Dragonite, and he's actually one of my best DPS at the moment. He's reaching 21 to 22k damage. But, the thing with Kadrin was, he inherited his mother's magic, so he's very skilled in the art of, pyromancy. He's very good at controlling flame, he's very powerful. This is, of course, in the future. Right now, he's 4 years old, but, when he grows up, this is what's going to happen. He's going to be a very powerful flame knight. But he's going to he's probably going to spend most of his time, he's probably going to remain Halalu with it, like his dad, but my plans were, as he got older, to go to Kinrava Telvanni and get some teaching in, where he would learn to craft a skill. Currently, he's getting some minor magic lessons from his grandpa Vec. Dinya. I made Dinya shortly afterward because, well, I wanted to have Kadrin to have a mother, but I didn't want there to be any complications, because, sometimes, players leave the game, or, stuff happens. So I decided to make things simpler to just design the mother myself, so I made Dinya. Dinya is Iceli, a very powerful mage. She specializes in destruction magic, but in reality, she's actually a Stamplar. She's a stamina Templar, and she is hilarious to play because I blow people's minds because they see her walking around with a Moon Dancer staff, and they think that she's this really great magician, and then I'll suddenly turn around and she'll have dual wielding blades, and she'll start slicing and dual wielding and doing spin to win. They're like, I thought you were a Magicka. I'm like, no, I'm Stamplar. But currently, Dinya is actually one of my most, aside from Vitalis, she's one of my most common characters to play. I don't play a lot of females. I never really felt really connected to the female Toon. But I've fallen in love with Dinya. She's had a very tragic past, as you'll find out when we get to other Toons. And she's had a lot of heartache, a lot of trust issues, and she's had her trust broken time and time again. But she's making a fresh start with the Gold Leaf acquisition under Sarethi's guidance. And she's made friends, she's slowly learning to trust again, and she's rebuilding her confidence. So that's good. And she also is she's also the mother of Kadrin, as you said, but she doesn't see him at all. But she's also the mother of a little girl named Anna. The father is not part of the picture. She hates the father and would not be sad if he ended up dead in a ditch. He hurt her very badly. So she's a single mom right now. She was extremely lonely, just with her and her daughter and her exceedingly growing group of cats. She's been getting a lot of cats because she doesn't have a man in her life. But she has a roommate now, Cersei, and that companionship is paying off. It's helping her become a little bit more social, a lot more outgoing. Zipkin Destroyer. Okay, this is the only Toon that's not a vet of my creation. He was an NPC red shirt I made for one of Enderos' events, and I just never deleted him. And the reason he's level 21 was during the anniversary event where you did random dungeons to get boxes. I expect him to be a tank so that I could run him as well to get an extra box. So I don't know if I'm ever going to delete him or not. He's level 21. But I'm also maxed out his characters, as you can see, at 15 out of 15. So if I ever need an NPC or a red shirt, I might have to, if I want to run something different. But we'll see. Tarvin. Okay, about a year and a half ago, people would be very familiar with this toon. This is Dinya's father. Tarvin Seloth was the magister of a Telvanni house. He's also the grandfather of Kadrin. And he was part of one of my only and really big plot lines for the Ebonheart Exchange, where he, through a series of developments, would work his way up to trying to abduct Kadrin and basically take him in to be the heir of the Seloth house. That was pretty much the whole reason he wanted his daughter to, you know, have a child. He wanted to make sure there would be like someone to continue the house name, because Dinya was, as far as he knew, as far as everyone knew, his only child. Legitimately. We'll get to that later on. But he was wicked. He was twisted. He would not be afraid to kill to get what he wanted. He was not afraid to step on whoever he needed to get what he wanted. But despite all that, he does have a soft side. He loved his wife, who was killed by the 6th house when Dinya was about 10 years old, and Dinya's 90 now. And that was when Tarvin started becoming very closed off, didn't trust people, didn't trust anyone outside the house. So he became also extremely overprotective. So he loved his daughter, he cared about her, he never wanted anything bad to happen to her. So even though he's wicked, he was a loving father, he cared about her. But he hurt a lot of people to try and get an end of his means, and near the end of his life, he was just very wicked. Okay, this is not a roleplay toon in the slightest. This is Blue Eyes White Dragon, and the only reason I made him was I want to experiment with a stamina warden. Tarvin was my mag warden. He was mostly a healer, but this guy is a stam warden. He mediocre damage at best. He's good for like a normal dungeon run. I can get through it, but nothing endgame. Nothing really. But I just basically made him. It was a joke named Blue Eyes White Dragon, but I just wanted to experiment with the Stam Warden because I heard they were good for PvP. So I actually leveled this guy in Cyrodiil. As soon as he hit level 10, he was in Cyrodiil and he never left. So there's not much to say about him. I don't use him for roleplay or anything. He's just a Stam Warden I was working on. And here's my latest toon. I actually leveled him about a week ago. This is Traven Seloth, who is Dinya's half-brother. About 50 or so years after his wife was killed, Tarvin went out in the DC area where there was another Telvanni, and they had a night of passion, which ended up in Traven's birth. Or conception, rather. Well, Tarvin didn't... Well, he was a very proud housemer and a magister of a house. He couldn't let people know he had a bastard son. So he kept this on the down low. He came to visit Traven maybe once, maybe twice a year at best. And, like, just to check in on him, like, fine-tune his skills, and then he was off again. But Dinya was his favorite. She was the daughter that everyone knew about, the one that was birthed by his wife that he adored. And Traven was well aware that, he was an afterthought to Tarvin and, any future in the house. I mean, Tarvin would promise him that, as soon as Dinya, was settled and on her feet and he knew she was stable, he would bring him over to the tower to get training, but, that never happened. And it wasn't until recently that Traven would receive word that his father was actually killed. But despite all that, Traven actually is very bitter about it. Dinya was the favorite, Dinya was the chosen one, and he always felt that, despite his skills, he was going to always be second best. And as you can see, he's another Mag Blade, but this is the one I've been working on. He is actually another one of my best DPS, getting up to 22k. But for his storyline, he is while Dinya is more lightning-based, he is fire-based. As you see, he has a... Whereas she had a lightning war, he has a fire sensei. And Tarvin had a lightning wolf, if you recall back, but... I'm planning on using him for roleplay later. I'm waiting for an opening. Because I thought it'd be really cool to bring him in at one point. To have, like, kind of like, you know, this tense relationship between, like, the half-siblings of Dinya and Traven, I mean. So I'm just looking forward to see where that goes. But, those are my tunes. And, you know, if, Zos ever, like, you know, opens, more character slots, I'll probably make more of them, but these are my tunes. Alright. I hope you enjoyed it.